everyone, and welcome to our Empower Ed with Olex.AI. I'm really delighted to be joined by Lucien today. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
We're going to have a really fabulous session, and we're going to be talking about one of the most popular topics in our community at the moment, and that is AI and the use of AI. We have so many questions, Lucien, every single day about how best AI can help support teachers, how best AI can help support leaders. So this couldn't come at a better time, really. So it's really lovely to have you here to chat about it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I'm delighted to run Olex.AI. I'm going to confess right away, I'm not a long-term in education. I've never been a teacher. What I have done is I've run innovation teams and product teams in various businesses over the years. And 2 or 3 years ago, I thought maybe I can bring some of those skills to education, having watched my own children and friends' children go through the education system. So I did a major pivot in my career a couple of years ago and joined Olex. And now I'm delighted to try and develop innovative products that solve real challenges for teachers in the classroom.
Wow, what a fantastic experience. And we like that. It's really important to bring, your experience from the technology background into education. And I know it's going to really help a lot of people. And so Olex came about because you had your own children and you saw that it could be helpful in education. I mean, to me, AI is quite new, but to you, it's probably quite, you've known about it for a while, have you? Or?
Well, I think it's new to everybody, and it surprises us every day. It continues to surprise me every day. So Olex.AI has actually, a company, been around for 10 years. So we've been around a long time producing innovative edtech products. But what we saw about 18 months ago was that AI was a real game changer for teachers if it was done right. So we essentially stopped all our work and just single-mindedly focused on AI. AI specifically for teachers. All of the products we do, none of them are student-facing. They're all designed to augment teachers. We believe in teachers as the beating heart of any classroom, and therefore all our tools are to enhance their role, enhance their ability, reduce their workload, and try to increase their well-being. So that's what we've done. We launched Olex.AI in January of 2024. And since then, we've been doing monthly updates to build out the product, some of which I hope to show you today.
How exciting. Well, you guys are going to love this. So I'm going to let Lucien share his screen, just add it to the stage. And if you've got any questions at any point, please feel free to add them to the comments. We'll let you show us all about Olex.AI. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lucy. So there are lots of AI tools, and I'm sure a lot of viewers will have been trying them out, whether that's ChatGPT or Claude or one of the other AI engines, or indeed there are a huge number of tool-based AI systems which provide lots of different lesson planning or quiz tools or that sort of thing for teachers. And it's been fantastic to see lots of teachers experimenting through 2024 with these things. We are slightly different in that we are trying to do one thing and just do one thing really, really well, and that is on English teaching. So really the group who are most interested, I hope, are English teachers, heads of English, directors of education who are focused on taking on the challenge of English teaching through Key Stage 1 all the way up to Key Stage 4. As a side note, I'll also say that we launched for history in September, and geography and RS coming very soon as well. But in today's talk, I'm just going to focus on English, but everything you see here for English, you can see replicated for those other subjects. So transforming how English teaching and assessment is done and using AI, the real breakthrough with AI over the last couple of years has been its ability to understand language. So that's where we are focused, these extended writing topics, which are extremely arduous for teachers to mark and are very, very qualitatively focused in their assessment. So if we take a number of the tools on the market, they are what we would consider to be transactional AI. So you take an input, you take a PDF file and say, please create a quiz out of this. You might take a topic and say, please create me a lesson plan. You might even take a student's essay and say, please assess this essay. What those are designed around is a single input, me asking the AI engine to do something and getting a single output out of that. And that's fantastic and it's brilliant for experimentation. But we don't think that's actually the challenge that most teachers have in the classroom, because teachers are working at scale. They will typically have 30 essays, 30 students that they want to mark. So Olex.AI is designed around that challenge, 30 at a time. The second thing is there are lots to learn about AI, and people are doing brilliant work figuring out what are the prompts, what are the engines, what are the tools. But we don't think that teachers need to learn all of that. And we don't think that all teachers are going to. And some of them are going to and then going to forget it and going to need retraining, or they're going to learn stuff and then the AI engine is going to change. So what we're trying to do is take that effort away from teachers and create one-click, one-tool AI. So you'll see when I get into the product demo, we have one button called Run Olex.AI. And when you click that button, a whole load of processes, AI and non-AI, happen to take in 30 student essays, do a series of multi-leveled activities, and then output a series of outputs all at the same time. So that is the way we believe that you can translate the promise of AI into real time savings for teachers and much deeper insight and quality output for teachers. So what does that mean? Well, if we take a classic weekly cycle that a teacher goes through, you might have 30 students in your class, whether at Key Stage 2 or GCSE, and typically they will hand in 30 essays. And in most cases right now, those will be handwritten essays. So as a teacher, I've got 30 handwritten essays on my desk. I am going to carry those probably at the back of my car. I'm going to drive home and I'm going to spend my evenings and potentially part of the weekend marking those. And a week later, I'm going to come back into class for my next lesson and I'm going to give that back to the students, give the feedback to the students. Now that's a huge workload burden. It's a huge physical burden because you've got to carry the books to the car as well. The feedback is limited due to the time constraint. And obviously for the students, getting the feedback a week later is a lot less impactful. So we're trying to change this cycle, and we're trying to change from a weekly feedback cycle to what we call an in-the-moment feedback cycle. So what's amazing about Olex.AI is that it can mark an entire class of 30 students in about 2 minutes. So that completely changes the dynamic of how you might run this process. So for example, we've got some teachers who are now doing activities in the class. For example, they might get the students to, Key Stage 2 students, to focus on practicing an opening paragraph at the beginning of the lesson. They might pause the lesson for a couple of minutes and mark all of those, and then use the second half of the lesson for those students to redraft their opening paragraphs based on the personalized feedback that Olex.AI has given them in that 2 minutes in the middle of the class. And the great thing is that that feedback is robust, accurate, and detailed every single time. So one of the challenges with uploading individually to an AI engine is that the prompt and therefore the rubric and therefore the output format that comes back may be a little bit different every single time. And when you're trying to drive consistency across a class, across a school, or indeed across a trust, that undermines the comparability of the marking. Olex.AI marks every single essay in exactly the same way to the same rubric that's been selected by the teacher. So that not only means you can compare across students, classes, and schools, but it also means we can start to pull some real data, not qualitative data, but quantitative data out of the marking of English. And I'll show you some of that in our demo shortly. So that's where we're trying to get to. The way we do this, as I said, there's this one button, Run Olex.AI. The way we do this is by stacking up a series of AI processes. And I'll run these through in a demo in a moment. But the first challenge we have is all these essays handwritten. Handwriting recognition has really stepped up with AI. And we have built a product called Olex Reader, which is a specially designed handwriting conversion tool, which can take in students even from year 1 and year 2 in some cases, but definitely through Key Stage 2, 3, and 4, and very, very quickly, very accurately convert that to text, which opens up the world of EdTech. And we've configured it to do things like it's not correct spelling mistakes, which it's desperate to do, but we've told it not to. Then the Olex.AI engine gives individual feedback to every single one of those 30 students. What it also does, a lot of teachers will have EAL students in their class. It will automatically translate that individual feedback into the native language of that EAL student. And that includes both European languages, it includes Mandarin, it includes Arabic, and pretty much any language across the world. What it also does is rolls those 30 bits of feedback up into whole class feedback. And we know actually a lot of the time, this is what the teachers really need and really value, including identifying common misconceptions across the class. And what it will do out of that is it'll identify a priority next step. And out of the priority next step, it'll create a targeted lesson plan, a highly targeted lesson plan for that class. We'll also show you, this is probably better to show rather than talk about, we've got a product called the Imaginator, which is really good for, particularly for reluctant writers. It brings their stories to life in illustrations. And finally, it feeds it into the Olex Analytics engine, which, as I said earlier, starts to take qualitative analysis of the English language and turn it into quantitative analysis. So you can track longitudinally the data of a student's progress. And obviously that has a knock-on impact on the moderation process. So let me pause at that point. That gives you an overview of what we're trying to do. And let me dive into Olex and show you this in action. So one of the key things about Olex is that it doesn't impose any process on teachers. So it's designed to be flexible around the way teachers want to work. So this is the main teacher screen. And you can see if I do have a single essay sitting on my desk, I can just run Olex.AI on that, no problem. If I have 30 handwritten essays, well, we have this product called SnapSnap, which is actually named by a teacher, and literally you get out your phone or tablet and snap a picture of 30 essays and it will convert them. But we're going to start off over here with a custom class assignment. So this is where we want to set some homework or in class for our students. So we go into the custom class assignment, and we're going to say this is for English 6A, and this might be a Macbeth mock that we want to do. And we come down here and we want to say, you know, evaluate the motivations for whatever else. We can add in supporting text here if there's a particular scene from the play that we want to include. We can put that in here, or we can paste it in, and then we can add other images and illustrations and text or word bank or something like that if we want to. What really exciting bit is on the right hand side here, where we ask Olex to mark in a particular way. So that might be, as we've got here, literacy seals. So you can create your own rubric. So I would like Olex to mark adjectives to describe characters, adjectives to describe setting, and paragraph structure. And you can see we've got all the major Key Stage 2 criteria down here. And what it will do is it will very, very focused in marking just to those criteria. So it won't get distracted by anything else. It'll just mark to those. It might be that we want to use a program of study or a TAF for Key Stage 2. And indeed, for every schools group, every MAT that we work with, we can translate their existing TAF or any other rubric they have, and we will put it in here, and it will appear underneath this drop down as whatever MAT and their TAF. And you can just select that, and it will be aligned with the school. And of course, what that means is if the school updates the TAF, it is automatically updated in Olex for all of the teachers. And then, of course, you can go up to Key Stage 4, and here are our exam structures. So in the case of Macbeth, we would come down here and we'd say Literature Paper 1, Shakespeare, and we would just tick here, and it would mark to the AQA rubric for Shakespeare. And that's all I need to do at that stage. What I will do at that point is publish my assignment. Now, students have a couple of ways of interacting with this. If they do have one-to-one devices, tablets or desktop access, then they get their own dashboard, and the assignment will pop up on their dashboard, and they can complete it there. And they can complete it in a number of ways. They can complete it by typing in, they can copy and paste from Word or Google Docs, they can use speech to text because that'll be part of their platform, their browser, and indeed they can use the handwriting recognition, which I will show you in a minute. If they don't have any of those, then that's absolutely fine. The teacher can run this on their own. They can traditionally send out the assignment to their students through Google Classrooms or writing it on the board or whatever way they do it. And then the teacher will just bring those essays in. And if I go back to SnapSnap, I can show you that scenario. So we've set the assignment either through Olex or on the board or through Google Classroom or whatever else. And now I'm in the situation that at the end of class or coming back after homework, I've got those 30 essays sitting on my desk. So what I will do is I will go into SnapSnap and I will say, okay, I'm going to take this case, I'm going to take English 6A, and the assignment was the dragon assignment. What I'm going to get is a list of all of my students on the screen. So these are my 30 students, and I'm going to do this on desktop, but you need to imagine this is on your tablet or your phone. And I'm looking through those workbooks, and the first workbook I come across is Ella Harris's. Okay, so I'm going to snap. And this button here, when I click Add Image on my desktop, I'm going to get a little file manager. But if you click this on a tablet or a phone, you'll obviously get the camera. So I'm going to add an image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one of these files, but imagine it was a camera. There we go. That's the image. Yep, I'm ready to read that one. The next one I'm finding is here's Emily Hall. I found her one, and I'm going to snap a picture of that. Yep, that's Emily's one. Farida's. Okay, Farida's. Here's Farida's. And that's Farida's. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And what you can see is it's parallel processing. So the way SnapSnap is designed rapidly ingests these. It's parallel processing all of these essays. Now, this can be done by a teacher, or indeed, it can be done by support staff or a teaching assistant. So actually, the teacher can leave the room, and you can see how quickly it ingests all of those. And actually, you can do the entirety of this process, snapping all of the essays and marking them, and the teacher can check in 15 minutes later, and they're all marked and ready for review. So what you can see here is that the handwriting has worked really well on these two. For Emily Hall, there's some proofreading needed. So if we just check in on Ella Harris, what we can see here is the Tongo lizard on the left-hand side. Here is the handwriting, surviving years of boiling temperatures, up to 5 months without water. There's a little crossing out there. And you can see on the right-hand side, it's got exactly that. Up to 5 months, it skipped the crossing out. In purple on the right is any places that it's got a little bit of doubt. So you can see AI doesn't know this word Edam, so it's just a little bit suspicious. The G hits the M there. So it's highlighted that one. And what I can do is I can just correct that. And again, lounges, it's just checking that. Actually, that one's absolutely fine. So I can say, that's great, that's marked as done. Why is it highlighted Emily's? Well, if we go in there, we'll see a lot more purple here. And you can see Hungregator. So Hungregator, it's never even heard that word before. So it's just checking, is that right? Actually, it is. Is there a full stop here? Well, there isn't in the text, so it's not put one in. And it's got a little bit confused with this foods. What exactly is this text down here? I think it's in, so we can just correct that and mark that as done, and that goes green as well. And then I can submit that for marking. So that's how SnapSnap very quickly gets this in. Now, if I go to my assignments, and we'll pick out, there's that dragon one there that we just created. But if I go back here to one that I did a little while ago, so my weekend adventure. So this is the teacher dashboard with all of the activities that have been done, all of the assignments that have been done over the last few weeks. And if I go into my weekend adventure, you start to see the main marking screen of Olex. Now, on the left-hand side here, you can see, firstly, that's that Run Olex.AI button that I've been talking about. In this case, we selected a few different criteria. So adjective to describe setting, characters, and introductory paragraph. So the first thing we can see on the right-hand side here is the class level feedback. Again, this only goes to teachers. Students have effectively used vivid and powerful adjectives to bring settings and characters to life. So it's taking both of those first two feedback criteria. What it's also given you here is a priority next step. So what do students need to do next? Students should focus on varying their use of adjectives and enhancing descriptions of characters to add depth and a fuller picture to scenes and interactions. What it will also do at that point is take that priority next step and create a lesson plan. So if we take that lesson plan, the idea, I know lesson plans are very personal to teachers. So what we're not going to do is create a lesson plan that's ready to print and go. What we're going to do is create a series of components in this lesson plan. So you can see the objective there is taken straight from that next step. We're learning to enhance our descriptive writing by using a variety of vivid adjectives and detailed character descriptions. It gives you some success criteria, some key questions. I know success criteria is something teachers may well not use in the classroom, but the idea is that they can select different parts of this and copy it into their lesson plan. There's a starter, there's some main teaching content, some independent activities, some plenary, some adaptive teaching strategies. There's a resource bank with some nice adjectives for children to use, and a homework. And what it'll also create is a waggle at the end, because this is Key Stage 2. And what I like about the waggle is based on the stories that the students submitted. So somebody talked about moonlight. Somebody had a character called Ellie in that. So that is great. We then want to go and look at the actual students' essays and their marking. So you can see my students down here. So if we go into Alejandra Torres to start with. So Alejandra submitted this essay. Last weekend, I went to the woods near my house. It was like a magical place with big tall trees and lovely bird songs. I saw a squirrel jump from tree to tree, and it was so quick. My best mate Jamie and me made a den with sticks and leaves. So the way this rubric has been designed is in what you did well and even better if structure. And that's our sort of default for Key Stage 2. But again, maths and schools groups can change the format that they want this to come out in. As it says here, edit as needed. This is only going to teachers at this stage. So if the teacher wants to change this, they can do. If they want to add their own text, they can do that as well. And only when I click send response to student will that send to the student, and it'll appear on their dashboard. Now, what we also have here, I mentioned earlier on, is the Imaginator. So the Imaginator has been getting an incredible response from teachers and particularly from students, and generating real energy in the classroom. So this is potentially for the first time for students bringing their stories alive. So here you can see Alejandra and Jamie. Here are they building their den in the woods. Here are the squirrels jumping around. And the Imaginator creates 3 different images. Again, these are only to the teachers, and only when the teacher selects an image do they go back to the students. And if they want to regenerate different ones, they can do. What's fascinating about this is, firstly, reluctant writers are massively inspired by this, because this is their adjectives. This is them thinking, did I think they were going to be red squirrels or gray squirrels? Is this the way I imagined the den? Does Alejandra look like I look? Does Jamie look like the way he should look? And also, it's obviously added a load of extra adjectives in here. It's added a little lake. It's added a particular type of tree. And typically what we find students doing is liking it and then thinking either they want to redraft it because they want to change the adjectives because I don't look like I should look, or they want to write the next chapter in this story. But either way, it creates a whole load of energy and joy in the classroom. Now, it's designed to have diversity in both gender and skin color, and if it's wrong, the teachers are in control. But equally, if it's wrong, it generates a really interesting conversation in the classroom, because students typically won't use adjectives for themselves or people they know well. So again, that's Alejandra. The other thing I mentioned was around the EAL students. So if we look here at Emily Hall, for example, she's marked down as a Ukrainian student. When we go into her essay, we will say, here's her essay, here's her feedback, and it's been translated into Ukrainian over here as well. So that is what you did well in Ukrainian. And again, if I edit any of this, when it sends it back to the student, or indeed I add anything to this, when it sends it back to the student, it will update the translation. And you can see Emily's Imaginator images. We've selected a couple of those there. So that's all good. How do we get this back to the students? Well, actually, I'll show you by way of our Imaginator bookshelf. So this is for the entire class. Here's my English 6A. And what I get here is a bookshelf of all of their assignments across the year. So here are all the different ones that they've done. There's Emily's Weekend Adventure. Now, Alejandra, we never clicked that button that send it back to student. So Alejandra doesn't get those images yet until we click that button. And then what we can also do for Emily is download our storybook. So if I click here on the PDF, what it will do is it will create a PDF storybook for Emily. And in that will be an illustrated book with, here's her scout group. Her story is all about, yesterday I climbed a really big hill with my scout group. Here is her scout group at the top of the hill. It's been quite imaginative on the colors and the rainbows and all of that sort of thing. So for Emily, I think we selected 2 images. So there's a second one here. They're already tucking into their lunch. Here is the feedback. And here is also her feedback translation. So we may print this and stick it in Emily's storybook. We may send it to parents, particularly for EAL students, parents. That's valuable. So that's the way we get those back to students and to parents. So that's the various different ways that we can use Olex.AI. Now, on top of that, the latest feature that we've just launched, if I just flick through, so there was the Olex Reader, there was the individual feedback. You can see the Imaginator comes in a number of different styles. So this is a watercolor style. I think this is a Macbeth story, and that works really well for GCSE. We talked about the translation. We talked about the priority next step turning into a lesson plan. And we talked about the Imaginator. This is a really nice piece that was done by a school in Cambridge where they were all writing to create a brand new Shakespearean fool. And of course, rather than it just being text-based, they all ended up with a beautiful imaginated image, which they created into a collage, which went up onto the wall of the classroom. So the latest release we've got just last month, and we aim to do a release every single month, but Olex Analytics is a really big one. So this is taking the consistency of the AI marking that we have and turning it into data. Because it's so structured, we can actually move from qualitative assessment of English language into quantitative assessment of English language. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, of course, the subjectivity of teachers is removed because Olex marks every single essay in exactly the same way, entirely objectively. And one of the things I should say at that point is that the essays are all anonymized before they go anywhere near an AI engine. So the AI engine doesn't even know the name of the student that it is marking. It doesn't use these essays for training data. So they are safe in the hands of the AI engines. What we can see here is a screen out of Olex Analytics, and I can see my class 6B here. And I can see that there are 5 essays across the year that we have marked out for Olex Analytics. And you can see the class as a whole are moving from working towards to greater depth. And you can see that in this first essay, they met 30% of the criteria for Key Stage 2, and that increases as you go through the year. And then you can drill down to the individual students and see how they are progressing. And below this, you can drill down into Aisha and look at the individual criteria and which ones she's meeting. So for example, balanced argument, they're going to struggle in a time-slip narrative to do a balanced argument, but in the newspaper one, that's going to come through. So suddenly I'm getting real hard data that is comparable across students, across classes, and across all the schools in a trust. Which I think is probably for the first time that teachers have been able to do this. Now, what of course that has knock-on benefits is in the moderation process, which we know is really arduous for teachers. So on the bottom right here, you can see that we've highlighted some essays that we want to go into the moderation process. And rather than teachers starting from scratch and saying, has John Smith met the assessment criteria in narratives, described settings, and characters, Olex has pre-moderated it. So Olex has looked through John Smith's essay and said, yes, there is evidence for that. And then underneath that, it's pulled out why it believes that's the case. And you can see included in here, it says key examples include powerful adjectives to describe characters, such as cold peach hand and ocean blue eyes. And again, there's an override button, there's an edit button. Teachers can change this and they can add their additional comments. But hopefully what teachers will gain trust in is that Olex is doing its job right, and the whole moderation process is dramatically cut short by Olex pre-moderating objectively across an entire school or indeed trust. So that's Olex Analytics. We are so excited to work with mats and schools to develop it out. We think we've broken through into a new area here. And one of the things that, of course, we do is we have a number of mat development partners who work really, really closely with us to develop Olex and make sure it meets the needs of teachers. As I said, we do a big release every month, and that means we very rapidly can take the needs of teachers and turn them into product. So I think that's the major part that I wanted to show you. Fundamentally, what we're trying to move from is this weekly, arduous, qualitatively subjective process to one that is using AI to drive in-the-moment feedback, convert handwriting using Olex Reader, Olex.AI giving feedback, the Imaginator producing beautiful images to inspire children, whole class feedback and EAL translation, and now wrapping all the way around that, the data from Olex Analytics. Lucy, I hope that was useful.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Lucien. And I was writing notes whilst you were chatting, and I wrote so many notes I ran out of paper. And it was all the things that I really loved about it. And I'll go through some of them now. The first one, obviously, was this whole idea of you don't need much training. It's just one click. You know, so many people overcomplicate things for teachers. And to be honest with you, teachers don't have time. So the fact that they've only just got to think about one click and not worrying about too much time invested in training is super. The other thing was I love the impact data, because every question that a teacher, every day, the teachers ask the same question: is, are the children or students learning? And if they are not, why not? And where are the gaps? And so your impact information really teases that information out. I really liked the fact that you could see it at a glance, which is great for time poor teachers, but also if you want to drill down a little bit deeper, you can see why things are good and why things may need some help. I thought that was great. What else did I really like? I love the feedback in different languages. That to me is a game changer, because everything should be accessible. And to think that every child, every student in your class can have equal access to the feedback, and so can their parents and carers, is super. I mean, that's everything really, because if we can't communicate clearly to our pupils about what's the best way forward for them, then perhaps we need to think about how we improve on that, and that's a really easy way to do so. So really loved that. I told you I've written a list, hadn't I? Yeah. Oh, and the other thing I really loved was the use of imagery to help students and pupils write a story, and the excitement. And I could feel the excitement and buzz that I know my children in my class would have done. Yes, exactly, using the Imaginator. You know, for children to create a story and then it come to life using an image, and then even better than that, a book. I mean, you can't get much better than that. Children absolutely love things when they see something they've created come to life. So, and you've managed to do that in a platform which doesn't just focus on the AI element, but more importantly, it focuses on the communication and the teaching and learning element. So that's really, really impressive. I have one question.
Yeah.
And that is, do you know when when the teacher uploads a photograph into SnapSnap? I really like SnapSnap. It was a great name. How do teachers send that feedback? Because does it stay in the platform? Are they able to print it out?
Yeah, so in the there's a number of ways that they can get it back to students. So if students have their own devices, then they will log into their own dashboard and it will just come up there. If they don't, then teachers can download the storybook that I showed you and print that. And they can actually, there's a button that they can print all 30 storybooks at the same time, or download all the 30 storybooks at the same time. So and then they can, you know, it's a PDF file, so they can email that, they can print it, or they can drop it into a Google Drive, wherever they want. And as I showed you the Imaginator bookshelf, they can always go back and have a look at it later on, or come parents' evening or something like that, they can log in at that point.
Superb. And, you know, it's a really high quality product. And I can see that you've really listened to the educators around you and that are working with you to create it. So congratulations and well done. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been really, really helpful. So if, as we said at the beginning, if you've got any questions, please add them to the comments. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can get in touch via social media at HeadTeachChat. Email is info@headteachchat.com and our website is headteachchat.com. And if you'd like to find out more about the fantastic Olex.AI, you can head over to their website, Olex.AI, and you can fill in a form to find out some more information. And I'm sure the lovely team will be in touch with you as soon as they can. So that's fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me today, Lucien.
Absolute pleasure, Lucy. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you ever so much. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.